Thank you, everyone. Welcome. Good evening, Sengihun. This is Carmela Roywell from the Health Equity Council. We are streaming live with my co-facilitator, Diana Lopez, and we would like to welcome all of our guests and audience to join this evening's Salud y Querencia. Again, my name is Carmela Roybal. I come from Okewinge, northern New Mexico, and we have designed a show to really focus on health and focus on our communities and the needs of our communities and the traditions and strengths of our communities here in New Mexico. I'd like to invite my co-host, Diana Lopez. Introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. So happy to be here with Dr. Roybal and our wonderful presenters tonight. My name is Diana Lopez, and I work for the New Mexico Department of Health, and I'm part of health promotion in Bernalillo County. And yeah, I'm just really happy to be here and happy to see all these wonderful people on our Zoom and also see some individuals joining us on Facebook. So welcome, everyone.
Yes, welcome. And again, we are with the Health Equity Council of Bernalillo County. So the Health Equity Council is our home, and this project, Salud y Querencia, came from the need to create community engagement across all of our public health sectors. And so we're very excited to be on our 12th show. 12th show. So, and we will be having our anniversary next year, and we'd love for all of our guests to continue joining us as we move through some really critical topics. So today's topic is culture cures, or la cultura cura. We've had a lot of talks about how our traditional communities in the state of New Mexico and across the United States, Mexico, Latin America, all come with thousands of years of knowledge around healing and medicine. And so we wanted to bring that to our guests today and to our communities. And we have some very special guests today. We have Dr. Eliseo Torres and we have Mario Esteban de Angel Guevara. Thank you so much for joining us. I am going to I could give a long introduction on just all of the amazing work that Dr. Torres and Mario have done. In fact, today I pulled my book, Dr. Torres, Curandero, Life in Mexican Folk Healing. And I just wanted to share with our audience how special our guests are today and the knowledge that they're going to share. And I just wanted to welcome you. Without giving too much of an introduction, I'll just allow you to just give a quick introduction yourselves, and I'd love to jump into the topic. So I'll give it to you, Dr. Torres.
Thank you. My name is Eliseo. Cheo is what I'm called. Torres, my last name, and I've been learning and practicing traditional medicine all my life. My mother was a sort of curandera, and then my teacher was Crescencio Alvarado, known as Chenchito. He was my teacher for 30 years, a well-known curandero from Mexico. And I've been teaching Curanderismo courses for more than 20 years. Now, Mario is part of my team, and he co-teaches the courses. And we do it in Spanish now. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mario, and maybe you can say a couple of words about yourself, Mario.
Thank you, Cheo. Yes, I am originally from Monterrey, Mexico, one of the land of one of the greatest curanderos in Mexico, in Niño Fidencio. And we teach about him, about many other curanderos as well. Like Cheo, I've been teaching the Spanish classes of Curanderismo and the English classes with Dr. Torres since 2019. We've gotten the books translated into Spanish for Spanish learners and Spanish speakers and immigrants that would like to learn more or keep practicing their traditions as well. So that's about me for now.
Thank you. And I'm going to the time flies when we're here. And so I'm going to just hand it to you, Dr. Torres, to go ahead and show your presentation.
Okay, very good. We have a PowerPoint presentation that Mario will control. And let me tell you a little bit about it. The title of it is Curanderismo, or Traditional Medicine During Times of Stress and Anxiety. Why stress and anxiety? Well, because during COVID, there's a lot of stress and a lot of anxiety. And curanderos have been dealing with this. We collaborated with several curanderos in Mexico, and we're going to share with you some techniques that they use, especially during these very difficult times Our presentation will deal with the fusion of traditional medicine or curanderismo. We will have a snippet, two snippets, about 3 minutes. One of limpia, done by our friend from Oaxaca, Laurencio Nunez. Laurencio, I forgot Laurencio's last name, but anyway,
Lopez
Laurencio Nunez. And Laurencio will do a limpia. He comes every summer for our course. We have a 2-week summer course, and all of you are invited. We open it to the community. And then we'll have Leticia Amaro talk about plants for the nervous system. And that deals with the stress that many of us are suffering right now. And then she'll end with a facial massage for stress to relieve anxiety and stress. We will then talk a little bit about some plants for the nervous system, and then we will pause and ask for questions from the audience. And at the end, we have a short, about 7 or 8 minute video on summarizing traditional medicine or curanderismo, and we'll have an exercise on risoterapia, left therapy. With that, Mario, if you'll turn the, Mario and I will do this presentation. The next slide, please. What is curanderismo? It's the art of Mexican folk healing. It comes from the word curar, which means to heal. And it's a holistic approach to healing mind, body, and spirit. And who is a curandero? Well, traditionally, someone that works in the material, spiritual, and mental level, tied to mind, body, and spirit, or someone with a gift, a don, or an apprentice, somebody that learns from someone else. And finally, someone that attends one of the specialized schools like CEDEX, Centro de Desarrollo hacia la Comunidad, located in Cuernavaca, Morelos, Mexico. Mario and I have our certificates from this school. So next, please. I'll let Mario talk about the history, the brief history of curanderismo. I think you need to know how it all developed.
Yes, this is a brief history to how current traditional medicine came to be. So in the 1519, as we know, the Spaniards arrived in Mexico City. Unfortunately, a few years later, a lot of those medicinal plants and gardens that were maintained by the Aztecs were destroyed by the Spaniards. In 1552, short after that, an Aztec doctor, Martin de la Cruz, wrote the first medical journal listing about 251 medicinal herbs and their properties, with drawings as well, at the famous school of Santa Cruz de Tlatelolco in Mexico. This was written only 31 years after the conquest of Mexico. That's one of the earliest pieces of literature on traditional medicine that still exists. In 1554, Cervantes de Salazar described Montezuma II's gardens that still exist in Mexico City and anybody can visit, where physicians were experimenting with hundreds of medical herbs. So think about it, back then they were doing research and they were experimenting with the properties of medicinal herbs.
Here's a couple of pages from Codex Badiano that Mario mentioned. Why do we call it Codex Badiano, since Martin de la Cruz wrote this book? Well, one of his scribes or assistants by the name of Juan Badiano translated this book from the native language of Nahuatl to not Spanish, but Latin. But look at these beautiful pages of this book. This book was lost. And guess what? When the late Pope John Paul came to Mexico the first time, he brought this book and gave it to the people of Mexico. You can find this book now at the famous Museum of Anthropology in Mexico City. Next, Mario.
That's right.
Here are some influences. I'll mention some of them. Mario, you can finish with the rest of them. The influence is an influence of Native American and Spanish roots. When the Spaniards came here, they brought a lot of plants that they borrowed from the Moors from northern Africa, and the Native Americans here had their own plants. So now that we have a blend of these plants. And then there's a Judeo-Christian influence that it's a gift from God. The healer would say, in the name of God, I will heal you, but it's God that's doing the healing. And there's the Greek humoral influence that there's a balance or equilibrium of hot and cold. In order to treat hot illnesses, you use cold remedies and vice versa. And then Mario, you want to continue with the Arabic influence?
Yes, there is a very common concept in Mexican traditional medicine that is the evil eye, or mal de ojo, as we call it in Mexico. This is an influence from the Arabic people that through the Moors go to Spain, and when the Spaniards came to the Americas, they brought that belief with them. So nowadays we have the concept of the evil eye, and we have different ways to treat it as well. For example, limpias is one of the most common ways to treat it. The African influence, Santeria, which is a blend of Catholic saints with African orichas. Santeria is pretty strong. It's a pretty strong influence in Mexico City as well as in the Caribbean, such as in Cuba, for example. The spiritualism and psychic, there are some movements, healing movements in Mexico, like the Fidencista movement, which is a movement of curanderos and followers of the Niño Fidencio that I mentioned at the beginning. They are called cajitas or materias, cajitas meaning little boxes. They specialize in spiritual trances. It could be similar to a medium, and that we believe that they were informed by a theory that was developed in the 1800s by Allan Kardec, who tried to explain the nature of spiritism, which is what some of the curanderos do at the spiritual level. And finally, every day, increasingly, we see more scientific studies being conducted. One of the most important universities in Mexico is the University of Chapingo, that's doing scientific studies on the medicinal properties of plants that people have been using for hundreds of years. We also see other areas in the medical field, such as in nursery or midwifery or psychology, where modern physicians are incorporating traditional methods into their practice.
Now we're beginning to see a blend of or a trend of fusing traditional and allopathic medicine. Chinese medicine has done this. Ayurvedic medicine from India has done this. And we hope that Mexican traditional medicine will soon be able to fuse both traditional and allopathic medicine. Mario and I and Dr. Tomas Chavez and others went to Mexico City just recently and saw a school outside of Mexico City in San Felipe El Progreso. It's a native college they call intercultural, where they've been able to form such a clinic. And we hope that New Mexico may be the first state to do this. So it's going to take a little bit of time, but I think we're going to get there eventually. So Curanderismo has influenced a lot of this medicine. One of the famous authors of traditional medicine is Dr. Andrew Weil. You see here his picture in Time magazine. He's made the front cover of Time magazine 3 times, and he says, he emphasizes holistic common sense approach to treatment and healing. But so does Pedrito Jaramillo, who died in 1907. He's called the healer of los Olmos. He emphasized holistic common sense approach to treatment and healing, the same thing that Dr. Andrew Weil, a physician, Harvard graduate, has been saying. So, you know, we have to admire these people that have been so advanced throughout the many, many years. So next, Mario. And out of the 130 U.S. accredited medical schools, 100 schools cover complementary or integrative medicine. This comes from the Association of American Medical Colleges. One of these schools is the University of New Mexico. We have what we call the Center for Life. It was the founder is Dr. Artie Prasad. It is found off of Jefferson Street here in Albuquerque. We also have the Ayurvedic Institute. We have the San Giovanni Integrative Medical Center and the Southwest Acupuncture College that just moved to Santa Fe. The next. And Mario has spent time in Oaxaca with Laurencio Nunez, who's a curandero friend of ours. Laurencio comes every summer for our 2-week course. And this year it'll be, I think, the 12th of June through the 23rd or so. It's a 2-week course, intensive course. And we have a snippet of a limpia. Do you want to say anything else, Mario?
Yeah, just that the limpia that you're going to see is a Oaxaca limpia from southern Mexico, where Laurencio is located. And I'll go ahead and share that snippet.
And after this, we can pause it and ask for questions from the audience.
Vamos a pasar a hacer una demostración.
I'm going to show you
de
a
cómo hacemos
demonstration
una
right
limpia.
now of
¿Sí?
how we'll do a cleansing.
Ayúdanos, Gran Padre Celestial, a llevar a cabo esta ceremonia de limpia en el cuerpo, en el pensamiento, en el espíritu y en el corazón de tu Hijo Cheo. Que así sea.
Allow me to bring cleansing to this body, to this spirit, this mind. and the heavens and the earth.
Ayúdanos, gran Señor,
Help me, great
con que
Father,
estas plantas,
with these great plants
fruto de la madre tierra,
to help Mother
sean el
Nature,
elemento
that we
para
cleanse
poder limpiar
so that I can cleanse
este cuerpo,
this body,
este pensamiento,
those thoughts,
este espíritu
that
y
spirit,
este corazón
and this
de
heart
tu hijo Eliseo.
of your son,
Ayúdale, gran
Eliseo.
Padre,
Help him
a sacar todas esas malas vibraciones,
to take out any bad
esas malas
vibrations,
energías que se cierran en su cuerpo.
those energies that feel that they could stay in his
Cuídalo y
body.
protégelo.
Help him and protect
Yo te
him.
lo pido, yo te lo ruego, gran Señor.
I ask you, great Father, to protect him.
Ven, ven,
Come,
ven,
come,
ven, ven,
come, come.
ven. Espíritu divino,
Divine Spirit,
regresa a tu cuerpo.
return to your body.
Ven, ven,
Come,
ven.
come.
Espíritu de Cheo,
Great Spirit of Cheo,
regresa a tu cuerpo.
return to your
Ven,
body.
ven,
Come,
ven.
come.
Cheo, regresa a tu cuerpo.
Cheo, return
Ven,
to your body.
ven. Cheo,
Come,
regresa
come,
a tu
Cheo,
cuerpo.
return to your
Ven,
body.
yo te llamo.
I am
Yo te
calling
pido
you,
que regreses.
and I am asking you,
Estés donde estés.
so that you are where you
Ven.
are. Come,
Haz uno solo,
come, you alone,
en cuerpo,
in your body,
en pensamiento,
in thought,
en espíritu
and in your spirit,
y en corazón.
and within your heart.
Ayúdanos, gran Padre,
Help us, great
para
Father,
que estas plantas
for these plants,
absorban
that
las
they
malas
absorb
energías,
anything
las malas
that's bad
vibraciones de este ser.
energy or vibrations in this body.
Ven, ven,
Come,
ven.
come,
Espíritu de Cheo,
Spirit of Cheo,
regresa.
return,
Ven,
come,
Espíritu de Cheo,
return,
ven
the
a tu
Spirit of Cheo.
cuerpo.
Let me cleanse this body.
Intégrate a él.
I'm giving these plants
Dale el
energy to you,
equilibrio.
so that you can have
Dale la
balance
paz.
and peace
Dale la armonía.
and of harmony
Dale la felicidad
and of the
que
happiness,
este ser está buscando.
everything that you're looking
Que así
for.
sea. gran
That's the
Padre
way it
mío.
is, and that's the way it'll be.
Ayúdanos, gran
Help
Padre
us.
Celestial,
Great
para
Father,
que este huevo,
So that
fruto de
this
la madre tierra y del
egg,
viento,
with the strength of the Mother Earth,
sea el elemento
be an
para poder
element
limpiar el
that can
cuerpo,
guide us and help the body
el pensamiento,
in their thoughts,
el espíritu
is the
y
spirit
el corazón de tu Hijo Cheo.
of the heart of your son,
Ayúdalo,
Cheo.
gran Padre.
Help us, great
No
Father,
lo desampares.
all of our parents.
Cuídalo y protégelo.
Take care of him and protect him,
Que este huevo
that this egg
absorba
absorb
las malas energías,
any bad
las
energies,
malas vibraciones,
any bad
las
vibrations,
tristezas.
any sad.
I may want to add that the interpreter in this snippet video is Tonita Gonzalez, who spent almost 2 years in Cuernavaca and Mexico City studying traditional medicine, and she got her diploma at the school that I mentioned earlier, Centro de Desarrollo Humano hacia la Comunidad. So she's the interpreter, and she established a clinic in the North Valley of Albuquerque. She's a wonderful healer. Let's pause for a second, Manu, see if there's any questions at this time.
Do we have any questions from our audience or in Facebook, or we can also continue?
I'm
Well,
not seeing any questions on the chat or in Facebook. Only thing on Facebook is Matt Kraskian says hello to you, Dr. Torres.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. Well, we'll continue. Thank you so much. And we'll pause again later on. The next snippet video is one from Leticia Amaro, who is an instructor at the school that I'll keep mentioning, CEDEC, Centro de Desarrollo Humano de la Comunidad. And she's going to talk about plants for the nervous system. During COVID time, these plants came in very useful for the effects of COVID.
Tenemos, por ejemplo, la lavanda,
For example, we have here lavender.
esta planta que con su aroma
This plant with its aroma
va a tranquilizar mi sistema nervioso.
helps to tranquilize our nervous system.
Va a servir para cuando se siente uno muy nervioso o tiene ansiedad,
It helps when somebody feels really nervous or has a lot of anxiety.
simplemente con tener un ramito cerca
You could always just have just a stem
y
close to
percibir
you.
el aroma,
Perceive the aroma,
yo me voy a tranquilizar.
and I naturally become more tranquil.
Otra planta tranquilizante
Another tranquilizing plant
es la hermosa rosa,
is a beautiful rose.
¿sí? Aparte de observar su belleza,
But apart from looking at its beauty,
su aroma también va a relajar a mi cuerpo.
aroma as well helps to relax the body.
Una planta sumamente importante
One plant that is very
y que
important for
tienen
us,
aquí, pero a mares,
you guys have a lot of this here.
es el maravilloso romero.
It's the beautiful rosemary.
Esta plantita es un hepatoprotector,
This is a blood protector.
hepatoregenerador
It also helps regenerate,
y es una planta estimulante,
but it's also a stimulant.
que aparte de su aroma,
And apart from its aroma,
yo puedo diariamente
I could daily,
comer una hojita,
I could eat one leaf.
¿sí? Y esto va a mantener a mi cerebro
And this would help maintain my brain
despejado.
so that it becomes, there's
¿Sí?
fluidity.
Va a ser excelente cuando hay problema de ansiedad
It's really excellent when people
o
have
de depresión.
problems of anxiety or depression.
En una depresión estamos como que ya no tenemos aliento, no tenemos deseo de seguir viviendo.
When somebody has depression, they lack their breath and they no longer have the desire to go forward.
Nuestra energía está bajando demasiado.
And their energy has become very weak.
Entonces esta plantita es estimulante y me va a ayudar a recuperar esa energía.
And so this plant is a stimulant and it helps recuperate your energy. Common with the nervous
Voy
system insomnia.
a darles una muestra
I'm going to give you a demonstration right
de
now
un masajito facial,
of a facial massage.
que en este caso lo voy a hacer a un compañerito que me va a hacer favor
He's going to help us today.
de permitirme
Right
tocar
in
su
front of him.
rostro.
So he's going to permit me to touch his face.
Pero este masaje lo vamos a poder hacer uno mismo.
I'm going to show you how to do this, but I want you to know this is something you could do to yourself.
Si en la noche al acostarte no puedes conciliar el sueño,
If you sleep at night and you realize that you're not able to go to sleep,
puedes darte este masaje maravilloso
you could give this marvelous self-massage,
y vas a complementar
and you're going to complement it
también
with,
dando un masaje en las muñecas,
but also giving your own massage in your wrists of your hands.
¿sí? Con este masaje estamos tranquilizando corazón
With this little massage, you're actually making your heart more tranquil,
y estamos tranquilizando también pulmón.
but you're also tranquilizing your lungs.
Va a ser la mejor medicina natural
It would be the best
para poder
natural
conciliar
medicine
el sueño,
so that you could then sleep.
¿sí? Y también tenemos esta hermosa planta que en cuestión de insomnio, la
But
dejé al último para esto,
This is why I left this plant as the last, because
Es
this is
el-
also excellent for insomnia.
albahaca,
This is basil.
¿sí? También nos podemos tomar un tecito con una hojita
You could
de
take
albahaca
a tea using just one
Para-
leaf in a cup of tea,
para una taza de té
one leaf per cup,
y tomarla antes de acostarnos a dormir.
and you could take it right before you go to bed.
Y ahora sí,
And now,
felices sueños.
have good dreams.
¿Sí? Para este masajito voy a utilizar un poco de aceitito.
I'm going to use a little bit of massage oil,
Es una cosa mínima, una
just very, very
gotita,
little, just a drop.
¿sí? Que tiene aroma de lavanda precisamente.
And this has the aroma of lavender.
Que desde que lo estoy inhalando
And as you're inhaling,
está tranquilizando mi sistema nervioso.
you've already started to begin to tranquilize
Tallo
your
un
nervous
poquito
system.
mis manos para provocar calor.
You're going to rub your hands together so that you could provoke warmth in your hands.
Deposito mis manos
I
a una
deposit
corta distancia
my
primero,
hands just as a distance from the eyes,
en el rostro
on the face,
de la persona que voy a masajear.
to the person that I'm going to massage.
Y después voy a iniciar
And I'm
por
going
su frente.
to initiate
¿Sí?
on the front.
Voy a hacer este movimiento
I'm going to do this
para
movement
estimular
to stimulate,
la energía de este rostro.
to move the
de este
energy within this
cuerpo.
face and this body.
Unos pequeños
Little,
pellizcos.
little pinches
En
above the
cejas.
eye, on the eyebrows.
Desde luego que estos movimientos los voy a hacer
And these movements I'm going to do
unos 3 minutos en cada punto.
for about 3 minutes in each point.
En las laterales del rostro,
On the lateral sides of the face,
en los ojos, pero muy suavemente.
but very softly
Sí,
you'll do that
muy
on
suave.
top of the eyelids.
Este masajito debe de ser rico,
This needs
delicioso.
to feel rich and delicious.
De la base de la nariz
On the base of the nose
al pómulo
to the cheekbones
¿sí? Nos vamos continuando
And we continue
con cada punto del
With
rostro.
every point on the face.
En este caso, donde terminan los labios,
In this case, where the
en la
lips
comisura de
end,
la boca,
and to the top of the mouth,
me voy al abajo de la barbilla,
I go underneath the lip, on the chin.
suavemente recorro,
Very softly, I'm running my hands.
¿sí? Después de ahí me sigo con las orejitas,
After, I'll finish with the ears.
estimulando, estimulando. En todas estas partes de mi cuerpo tengo terminaciones nerviosas de mis órganos.
Specifically on the ears, you have points that connect directly to your nervous system. So if I stimulate these points, then I'm relaxing the nervous system.
Aquí estoy estimulando a todo mi organismo.
But I'm also stimulating all of the organs within the body.
Aquí doy un pequeño jaloncito
Here I'm going to pull a little bit,
hacia arriba,
up,
hacia atrás
down,
y hacia abajo.
up, back, and
¿Sí?
down. I will
Termino
pull
con
you.
cuello,
I finish with the neck,
y saco.
and I remove.
Me sigo con cabecita porque si no lo dejaría yo incompleto.
And then I'll finish with the head because I don't want to leave an completed job.
Un pequeño shampoo
I do a little shampoo,
y después
stimulation, and after,
me voy con mis dedos pulgares
I go with my thumbs,
apretando.
pressing.
No se preocupen,
Do not worry.
el cráneo es duro.
The cranium is hard.
No va a pasar absolutamente nada si yo oprimo.
Absolutely nothing will happen if I press with a little
Los
pressure.
laterales,
On the lateral side of the head,
y también vuelvo a sacar.
and then I go and I remove, sweeping the head.
Tallo de nuevo mis manos
I start to rub my hands,
y termino pasando energía del universo.
and I continue by giving energy to from the universe to the head.
Ok.
Thank you.
¿Cómo te sientes?
How do you feel?
Very relaxed, thank you.
Muy
¿Rico?
relajada, gracias.
Ok. Bueno, pues espero que sea.
Well, that was Leticia, and Leticia is one of the instructors at the school that we mentioned earlier. Mario will now tell you very briefly some of the plants for the nervous system. Most of the plants are for the nervous system.
Thank you, Cheo. This is one of the most common plants in Mexico, and also here, it's the famous manzanilla or chamomile. This is good. It's not a very strong plant, and that is used for nausea, insomnia. It's used as a sedative, but again, it's not really strong. It's good for an eye wash using cold water, headaches, fever, anxiety, and it's also an anti-inflammatory. Next, we have Damiana. Damiana is a very popular plant as well. You can find it in any yerberia or Mexican herb store here in Albuquerque or Santa Fe, even Taos. This one is also really good for anxiety, asthma problems, colic pain, and mild indigestion. Lavender, that's what the curandera Leticia Amaro mentioned in the video. Lavender is a very common plant that was brought to New Mexico from North Africa, and it's very common here. It has adapted to New Mexico wonderfully. So it's also a sedative, and it's good for indigestion. It's actually a pretty common plant that you'll find in aromatherapy, in candles, essential oils, that kind of stuff. Next, we have the flor de tila, popular plant in Mexico, or linden flower. You can also find it here in the United States. This is a stronger plant than chamomile. It's a little stronger. It's good for depression. It can be taken as an infusion. It's good for depression, headaches, insomnia, restlessness, and it's a sedative. It's not the strongest sedative, but it's stronger than chamomile. Uña de gato, cat's claw. I haven't added here, but that would be the Peruvian cat's claw, not the California cat's claw, which is toxic. The Peruvian cat's claw is good as a kidney cleanser. It fights infections, viral infections, and it's an immunostimulant, meaning it strengthens the immune system. It can also be taken as an infusion. Passion flower or passiflora. Passiflora is a stronger plant as well, stronger than chamomile. Not the strongest of all, but it's also used as a sedative. Really good for insomnia, for anxiety, and also for headaches. Can also be taken as a tea, or a lot of these plants can also be put in your food as fresh herbs or even dried herbs. Borage or borraja in Spanish comes from the Arabic world. Borraj, the father of sweat. This plant is given to children when they have fever, and this has proven to be a wonderful plant during COVID to treat the symptoms, for example, strong fevers. This plant makes you sweat. It cools down your body and purifies your body. It's also a good diuretic. Finally, we have valerian root. This one is actually pretty strong. The part of the plant that's used is the root of the valerian plant. So valerian root, or valeriana in Spanish. This is a strong sedative. It's good for nervousness and insomnia, but you need to be careful if you use it. Do not boil it because it can cause depression.
We do offer some free courses. I say free if you audit the courses. We have 4 courses in Spanish here. One dealing with plants, plants for the nervous system, for the digestive system, microdoses, tincture. Microdoses is done from a tincture. Tincture is an alcohol base. We show you how to prepare your plants, fresh plants or dried plants, in alcohol, and you make a tincture, and from the tincture you make a microdoses, which is water-based, and then heating with oils and that sort of thing. The next course is heating the body. Fire cupping is cupping like Chinese cupping, except this is Mexican cupping. Mayan abdominal massage, empacho or intestinal blockage, body and spinal alignment. We have some sobadoras and sobadores. Traditional healing of infants, the aging community, and pregnant women. And then finally, the third course is global and cultural influences of traditional healing. We've worked with healers from Africa, from Uganda, from Gabon, Africa, from Cuba, from Puerto Rico, from Ecuador. And we also work with some of the native healers, and we have a module on feather cleansing and Mayan acupuncture, similar to Chinese acupuncture. And then finally, we have healing mind, body, and spirit. Laurencio will show you some more on limpias. We have different types of limpias or energetic spiritual cleansings. We talk about the sweat lodge or the temazcal, healing through sound and music, laugh therapy, which is a therapy, risa terapia, and healing grief during Dia de los Muertos. Mario, do you want to talk about the Spanish course, Mario?
Of course. Did you mention, Cheo, that these courses are free?
They're free if you audit them. Yes, if not, they'll try to charge you $49 for a certificate, but they are free if you audit them.
Yes, so this is the 5th course, is the newest of all. This is in Spanish. Everything is in Spanish, the videos, the readings, the assignments, everything is also free. If you go to coursera.org and in the search bar, you type Curanderismo, you'll be able to see the 5 courses available for free to anyone, anywhere in the world. This is the 5th course. We have plans to create 3 more courses in the Spanish language. Anybody who's learning Spanish or already speaks Spanish and would like to learn this in its original language can take this course. The Curanderismo, it focuses on global perspectives and cultural influences in traditional medicine of Mexico. So we first provide an introduction to traditional medicine in Mexico. We talk about the famous school SEDEC, where Doñita, Cheo, and I got our diplomas, the Fidencista healing movement from northern Mexico that I research, the spiritual energetic cleansings of Mexico and Cuba, the Afro-Cuban cleansings. Each region has its own unique ways to cleanse the spirit and the energy. So we compare some of the ones they do in Mexico, the curanderos do in Mexico, and the ones people do in Cuba with a heavy Afro-Latino influence, or the African influence. Traditional medicine for women from Bernadette Torres from New Mexico, and Mino Asheninka from the Peruvian Amazonia. The Afro-Puerto Rican healing as well, the sacred tobacco of Peru, and the healing of grief with Day of the Dead.
We have a summer course, and now we've already planned the course for this coming summer. It will be June the 12th through the 23rd. All of you are welcome. We do it through continuing education also, as well as through UNM. And you can enroll in the 2-week course and work through continuing education if you don't want to enroll at UNM. And this is a wonderful course. It's very intensive. We have hands-on in the afternoon, and during the morning, we have a lot of wonderful presenters, healers from throughout New Mexico and outside of New Mexico and other states. We have a large group of people that come from New York, from California, from Arizona, from Texas, and from all over. So please consider coming to this class. We do have a website, curanderismo.unm.edu, and you can get more information.
Yes, and the information on the slide is from last year. So as you said, Cheo, the in-person class, 2-week intensive, would be from the 12th of June through the 23rd. And we also have an online 3-week course for those people who cannot come for 2 weeks to Albuquerque. That would be from the 10th through the 28th of July, online 3-week.
Very good. At this time, Mario, we do have some publications also that go along with the course, some of these publications. And the next one, Mario, I think we have a link to, you have my email and my phone number. Forget about this phone number. Let me give you my private number. It's 505-269-2542. Again, 505-269-2542. I retired as an administrator, and so I don't use his phone anymore. But you've got my email. I still use that. Mario, you've got his phone number there, and you've got his email. So you can email any of us or call us for more information. Before we show you the short video or TEDx, what questions do you have at this point? Anything?
There is a couple questions in the chat. There's one from Jessica asking if does the source of the ingredients have an impact on the effectiveness of the practices, or is it more about the spiritual and energy connection?
You're talking about the elements that are used for the limpia? The concept of a limpia is that you've lost your soul or your spirit, and that's when you get certain symptoms and you get sick. You have headaches, you have insomnia, and when you do the limpia, you bring back your soul into your body. This is why Laurencio slapped me with the plants and said, "May the spirit of Cheo return to his body." When that limpia neutralizes our energy, and also we're composed of energy, and that energy is damaged whenever we have a traumatic experience. It could be COVID, the traumatic experience, and so we have certain symptoms. After you do the limpia, that energy is smooth, and your soul comes back into your body, and you get rid of whatever symptoms you had. That's the whole idea of a limpia.
If I may add
Laurencio, I'm sorry, go ahead, Mario.
Oh, okay, sorry, just to compliment on that, because Laurencio Lopez is one of my teachers, together with Cheo and Rita Navarrete, and I was just in Oaxaca in October, and he trained us on this. And a student had a very similar question about the ingredients. When we pick up the plants and the utensils to use in a limpia, the egg, the water, he uses mezcal, where should they come from? And he mentioned that a plant it wouldn't be recommended to have a plant that has pesticides and all that kind of stuff that they put on it. It should be organic if possible, especially if you're ingesting it. But for limpias, it shouldn't be surrounded in a negative space, right, with negative energy. We believe that plants absorb the negative energy that we have. So when you cut them, you ask for permission and you thank them for their healing. And as well, you have to be in a good place, right? You have to have a good positive energy towards it, a good feeling, not to be angry, not to be sad, not to be depressed when you're going to heal somebody else. So you ask for permission, you show gratitude, and then you make sure you're in the right place when you cut the plant and use it for healing somebody. That would be the most important.
Yeah, there's a reason why he uses an egg, why he uses copal incense, why he uses water or mezcal. And he also uses a candle at the very end. We didn't talk about the candle. So he's probably one of the people that uses more elements in his cleansing. My mother used an egg. An egg absorbs the negative vibrations, and it's the largest living cell. So there's a lot of interpretations of Olympia, but guess what? It works, in my opinion.
Thank you. And there's another question from Crystal Chan asking, Which course had the Mayan abdominal massage?
That is the heating of the body. And the Mayan abdominal massage, Alex Jackson is from a native of New Mexico, of Albuquerque, and he lives now in Kansas City, Missouri. And he specializes in Mayan abdominal massage. He spent a lot of time in Merida, in Mexico, and in Belize, and Central America, and in Guatemala. So he specializes in Mayan abdominal massage. And we have other people that do the same thing, and we ignore our stomach. And but there's a lot of illnesses that come from our stomach. So he specializes in Mayan abdominal massage, that's heating the body.
Wonderful. And another from Crystal, are the summer classes open for enrollment?
Not right now, but soon there will be. We're working with continuing education. I would say within the next 3 or 4 weeks, would you say, Mario?
Correct, yeah.
So, and you can take them through continuing ed, which is a lot cheaper, or you can take them as a credit course. You have a choice. And we're asking for some scholarships. So we get support for scholarships. And if you're a New Mexican, you might be able to get a scholarship. And if you live in Albuquerque, I'm sorry, but the city of Albuquerque might give us some money for scholarships. We're still waiting.
And we do have a question from Enrique and Karen. Which herbs work as a tea?
Which ones are used as a tea? Well, there's a lot of plants that are used as a tea. Mario mentioned, all the ones that Mario mentioned can be used as a tea.
They can all be used as a tea. That's what we show them. They are usually, they can be put on food as well as fresh herbs when you eat it, or it can be made a tea. Basil, as Leticia Mar showed, can 1 leaf per cup. Chamomile, of course, chamomile tea. Valerian root, be careful, that's pretty strong. I'll tell you that the first time I used it, I used a little bit too much and I numbed my tongue. So be very careful when you use that one. But all of them can be used as teas or infusions.
The good news is a lot of these plants now found in tea bags. You can find them at El Super or at El Mezquite or at any herb store. You can buy a box of tea bags.
Yes. And Crystal had a question about the mention of mezcal used in the limpia. If you can speak more to that.
Well, you spray the instead of water, in Oaxaca they use mezcal, so they spray you with mezcal. I don't particularly care for mezcal because I smell like liquor. So, but we use water and we use the spray sometimes to spray you. So that's you don't drink the mezcal, you spray the mezcal.
Right. You don't drink it. It's sprayed onto the body. And as we mentioned, every region has its different unique ways to do it. Cuba has its way, Peru, Puerto Rico, Northern Mexico, Southern Mexico. So in Oaxaca, mezcal is a native drink, pre-Hispanic. It was an alcoholic drink before the Spaniards arrived. And the belief in Oaxaca is that it was given by the gods. I'm assuming the Zapoteco or the Mixteco gods that they had, and it was given to them. If you look up the history of how mezcal was born, it was actually given by the gods. It's a pretty interesting story of how it came to be. So they use mezcal as a cleansing element instead of water, which is a universal cleansing element.
A few weeks ago, we had, or I want to say months ago, we had a talk about long-term COVID. So COVID long haulers. So we're seeing a lot of people with the nervous system effects on their, headache, nervous system, heart palpitations, a lot of different physical ailments that are almost, just a sign of heavy stress. And so I was just thinking, Diana, do you remember that talk about the long haulers? I was just thinking how teas, you can actually apply some of these items, and maybe we can, put some of them in the chat for those that are looking through there, and maybe even post them on the Facebook, thinking through. So I thought that was really interesting. All of those that support and help the nervous system and insomnia, some of the most critical pieces that people are dealing with, long after having
Dr. Roybal, I find that most curanderas recommend passion flower, passiflora.
Okay.
Passion flower tea. It's not very strong, but it's strong enough that it calms you down. And it helps with insomnia. And it's natural.
Maybe that's one. No, this is really nice. Thank you, Dr. Torres.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mario. Yeah, this is so exciting. Thank you, Mario.
If you want something to knock you out, valeriana root would work, but it's strong. And it's there is a side effect. If you're pregnant, don't use it because it could cause abortions. Valeriana. All the other teas are okay to use.
So all of these teas we have here, and they have so many special properties. And I think I kind of wanted to ask you a little bit about history. So New Mexico, we didn't have all of the medical system, and communities heavily relied on roots and food and medicine and culture, to maintain the health of communities and population in general. And then we see this massive kind of influx of Western medicine and kind of the erasure of a lot of these. I've heard a lot of stories about a lot of the traditional women and men that supported these types of healing, even the pateras, or those that gave birth or provided support during birth and things like that. Could you talk to us a little bit about that, Joe, and some of maybe the other areas in which curanderos have supported the health of the communities?
Yep.
Whether it's, I've heard a lot. Yeah.
It seems to be coming back. And the reason I say that is that we have a large number of people in our courses now. And in Mexico, as I mentioned earlier, they're creating clinics where they've been able to blend both traditional and modern allopathic medicine. So there's a trend that there's more interest now. People want to know what their grandmothers used when they were young. And so, also the good news is that there's more research now. You're beginning to see research that wasn't done maybe 10, 20 years ago. So I think it's a matter of time before people start going back to the way that we used to use traditional medicine. And also doing some more research. That's what we need to keep on doing. It's amazing what some of these curanderos do. I'm just flabbergasted when I see them doing some of the things that they do at no cost, at little or no cost at all. And when people are not insured, they can take advantage of this type of medicine. We're sort of lazy. We rely on insurance and we pop a pill for just about anything, or wind up in an emergency room, and then we have to wait 6 or 8 or 10 hours to be seen when we could take care of our own body. So we're teaching people how to heal themselves and their families.
That's right. Yeah. And if I may add something else, Joe, as well, historically speaking, right, in the history of traditional medicine, here in Mexico, there's been some clash, particularly with the government and the church, the Catholic Church. A lot of these practices, especially the healing methods for the spirit, were seen as witchcraft, or, they were demonized in the past. I'm currently researching a great curandero from the 1920s in Mexico that even the president of Mexico went to visit him for healing. At the time, the medical doctors sued the curanderos for practicing medicine without a license. And the Catholic Church also was against a lot of these curanderos because the community would see them as folk saints. When they became really big, they would pray to them. They would go for them for things that otherwise they would go to the church for. So historically, there's been some clash between church, government, medical doctors, and the curanderos, but we see it now that it's coming back. It's been more accepted, as we see other types of traditional medicine around the world, like from Chinese traditional medicine and Ayurvedic, from India. So it's been more accepted nowadays.
Thank you, Mario. I'm just curious about your call. Like, when did you start, or the both of you become interested? And well, I did read your book, yeah, by the way.
I started with my mother as a young child, and she knew the rituals, she knew the plants. But when I would ask her questions, she couldn't answer my questions until I met Chinchito de Querencia Alvarado, and he was a full-time curandero, and I was with him 30 years, and I learned so much. I learned to be humble and to give to people. He was such a giving person. And Mario, all the same thing. I think you grew up with it, Mario. Your grandmother was somewhat of a curandera in Mexico.
Yeah, on my dad's side, from Veracruz. My dad's side of the family is all from Veracruz. That's a very, very traditional state in Mexico, like Oaxaca would be as well. And when we would go to visit my grandma, she would heal me of empacho by pulling my skin on my back and giving me teas and doing limpias on us as children. So, but I'm not unique though. A lot of people in Mexico grow up with this kind of medicine. It's not something unusual or something new to them. A lot of Mexican immigrants know this very well.
We'd like to also show about an 8-9 minute video, if it's okay. It's a TEDx that I did.
Oh, sure,
not too long
yeah.
ago. And I think
Sure,
it
go right
summarizes
ahead.
everything. So
Sure, go right ahead, and that will help. That will take us
Sure.
to the end of the show. Yeah, thank you.
you bet. Well, my passion is Curanderismo. I study, I research, I write about it, and I teach a course every summer on the topic. How many of you have been to the course? Some of you, I see some hands up. So you know what it is. Curanderismo comes from the word curar, which means to heal. A curandero is a male healer, a curandera, a female healer. And think about this. In earlier years, there were few medical doctors, there were few ministers, priests, no counselors. So the curandero played all these roles using a holistic approach to healing the body, mind, and spirit. Now, my mom was not a curandera, but she should have been one. She would tell us, all 6 of us children, she would say, "Don't you dare get sick. And if you do, I'll take care of your illness." And she did. Using medicinal plants, using rituals, she kept us healthy. I'll give you an example. She loved the aloe vera plant, sábila. And she would call it la plantita milagrosa, the miraculous plant. And she would say, "This plant heals everything from pimples to wrinkles." Indeed, she used it on her wrinkles and on our pimples. But she also used it for burns and sunburns. And my dad had serious digestive problems, so she gave him papaya. Every day, she gave him papaya for breakfast. And she would ask us, "Please take your papaya, eat your papaya." Of course, you know how kids are. We didn't eat papaya. Until recently, I was diagnosed with diverticulitis, and the physician said, "You will need surgery." So immediately I got on the phone, I called Rita, my curandera friend from Mexico. I said, "Rita, I'm having surgery." She said, "No, you're not." She said, "Take papaya." 3 times a day if you have to. I said, "That's what my mom used to say." And she said, "Did you listen to your mom?" Mother always knows best. And then there were those wonderful rituals. For example, the ritual of the 7 knots. In Spanish, it's called El Rito de los 7 Nudos. How many of you have problems? Come on, all of us have problems. And this ritual, and it's amazing how the curanderos use simple things to deal with serious illnesses. All you need is a ribbon, a red ribbon, about 1.5 feet in length, and you think of 7 problems. And if you think you don't have 7 problems, you do. You take the ribbon, you take the half of the ribbon, and you tie a knot for your first problem. And you think about your problem, and you can pray if you'd like. Move a couple of inches to the right, you tie your second knot for your second problem, and then you go to the left, and then to the right, and to the left, and to the right, until you get to the 7th knot for your 7th problem. So you've already tied a circle with 7 knots. You take the ribbon with the 7 knots, and you find an empty jar,
like an empty peanut butter jar or a mason jar. You put your ribbon with your knots in the jar, you close it, go to the backyard. Be careful the neighbors aren't watching, they think you're digging money. So you dig a hole, you bury the jar with the ribbons, and therefore you get rid of your 7 problems. Isn't that interesting? Very simple. Now, this reminds me of another ritual a friend of mine told me. He's a curandero. He said, when we were kids, my dad was an alcoholic, and he would come home and he would insult us and he would curse at my mom, and we were miserable. But there were times that our dad would come home and he would go to the backyard and we would sneak behind him and we would hide in the shrubs. And then he would lie on the ground, lie on his stomach, and he would take out his pocket knife and he would dig a hole. And then he would curse at that hole and he would yell obscenities at that hole, and then he would cover it. And then he would come home and he would be as sweet as ever. What was he doing? What was it that he was getting rid of? All that anger, all that stress that's in a lot of us, all that garbage that sometimes we need to get rid of in a very simple way. And then there was the ritual of susto, which means fright. Sociologists refer to susto as magical fright. Whenever you have a traumatic experience, an accident, maybe a fire, or maybe you've come back from a war, you may be suffering from PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. And I remember my cousin came back from Vietnam, and I'm sure he had PTSD, but I don't even think we had a label for it back then. And he would have flashbacks, he'd have migraines, he'd have suicidal thoughts. And my mother and my aunt said, he's got susto pasado. It's a serious susto. So what they did is they took plants, just not any plant. They took basil, they took rue, and rosemary, and they swept his body from head to toe 3 times in prayer. And I remember they would whisper, may the spirit of Juan return to his body 3 times a week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday for a month. And they asked us to be part of the rituals. The neighbors would come and support. At the end of the month, my cousin was normal. Isn't it amazing how these wonderful things can cure a person? Now, my belief is that we can create a new healthcare model that will bring both traditional medicine and modern allopathic medicine together. In fact, I've seen this model work very effectively in Mexico at a place called CEDEC, Centro de Desarrollo hacia la Comunidad, or a Human Development Center. It's really a school for curanderos, and hundreds, if not thousands, of curanderos go through that school, and usually it's a certificate program that lasts about 3 years. I was there about 3 years ago, and I had a terrible pain. I had sciatica. I could hardly walk. And one of the curanderos, who's also a professor there, said, Cheo, what's wrong with you? I said, well, I have sciatica, and I've had it for years. She said, can I work on you? I said, of course. So she said, first we're going to a temazcal, which is a Mexican sweat lodge. And we did for about an hour. And then she gave me an herbal tea. And then she said, take a nap. She wrapped me in a blanket. And I napped for about 30, 40 minutes. Afterwards, she worked on my leg. She massaged, she pulled, she stretched. And after about an hour and a half, she said, go to sleep. I slept like a baby. The next morning, not only was I walking, I was running. And I have been pain-free for 3 years, folks. It's just incredible. At this school, CEDEC, they teach curanderos that are actually the doctors of their villages things like healthy lifestyles, diets, juice therapy, acupressure, acupuncture. They make their own medicine with herbs. They make tinctures in alcohol base. They make microdoses with a water base. And they teach laugh therapy, risa terapia. Did you hear me? Laugh therapy. Now, Niño Fidencio, a famous curandero in the 1920s, was already doing laugh therapy. And now Rita, my friend Rita Navarrete, does laugh therapy. She teaches laugh therapy even here at the University of New Mexico during the summers. Now, I think Rita has already realized that laugh activates endorphins, the natural body painkillers, and it suppresses epinephrines, the stress hormone. It also helps the immune system. It circulates the blood. It relieves anxiety. And I'd like to try an exercise with you that she taught me. Could you please stand, all of you, for a second? Now, I want you to go along with what I say, okay? Start by saying, he. Now, okay, now, he. Now, ha. Now, ho. Please sit down. Now, if any of you were experiencing pain, you will be pain-free for the next 30 to 40 minutes. Okay. I'm serious. Going back to the model, let's dream big and let's bring both forms of medicine. Now, we're beginning to do this at our own University of New Mexico Health Sciences Center, thanks to Dr. Arti Prasad, who has a Center for Life here. Yes. But this has to exist all over the country, in fact, all over the world. And I tell you, this is what we need to meet the needs of those that are uninsured, especially those 11 million immigrants that live here. The only time they go to the hospital is when they're really sick and they go to an emergency room, which is overcrowded and understaffed. So let's come up with a new model and stay healthy. Eat papaya and laugh a lot. Okay.
Well, that pretty much ends that. Are there any other questions you think that we need to answer?
Thank you so much. Are there any other questions or from our audience?
I'm not seeing any in the chat.
I wanted to put the school, the name of the school, maybe into the chat so that we have record of that. And then those that want to get involved, we'd be happy over at the Health Equity Council to share flyers and information regarding your classes to our networks.
That
So
would be
we'd be more
wonderful.
than happy to get that out.
That would be
And maybe
wonderful.
enroll the Health Equity Council in a 2-week training. I mean, this
That'd
is
be great.
something
Maybe we can
hands-on
find
that
some, we might be able to find some scholarships for you. We've asked the city, we hope to ask the city for a grant, and so that we can pay the small tuition to continue an ed for those individuals that want to come to the class and meet some of these wonderful healers. So thank you so much. This has been wonderful.
Thank you.
And Mario, is there anything that you want to add?
Just thank you for having us, and we would like more people to come and join our classes. If you want to start with Coursera, that's free and you can start today. That class has been very successful, and we have over 40,000 students all over the world taking those classes. So if you are you're interested and you'd like to learn more, please register to that, and that's a good start, and then you can join us for the in-person class.
I may want to add, Mario, but they need to audit the class to get it free, and if not, they'll try to charge you $49. So it's not UNM, it's Coursera. It's working with UNM, but it's Coursera. So, and you can take it in Spanish also. Very good.
Thank you. No, thank you. This is really good. And I'm hoping, maybe in next year or in the spring when we have more capability to do interactive interviews and talks, and, maybe we'll be able to visit you then and share this. So very interested in the intersection of public health. And this is the original public health. And so really kind of moving our thoughts to how we integrate these worlds, and, for the benefit of just of everyone. So thank you so much for joining us today, Dr. Torres and Mario. You're always welcome here at the Health Equity Council and in our show, Salud y Querencia.
Thank you so much to our wonderful presenters. I think we have a lot of interest from our audience, and I know, as Carmela mentioned, there's a few of us texting back and forth that we really want to learn more. So looking forward to that, and just thank you. Thank you so much for being here and taking time out of your day to share this great information.
Adiós, gracias.
Thank you. Thank you, Mario.